Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Pilot in their Iroshizuku line Shin Kai, or Deep Sea. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, it really does help me out for you to check out the entire video. Also, if you're interested in blue inks, there's a link to that playlist down in the description. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm an ink guy. Let's get into 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it does shade fairly well. Quick goes darker to lighter. Brown goes darker to lighter. Fox is a much darker word than the word dog. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it does shade very nicely. Look at how quick goes dark to light to dark. There, pointing in the wrong spot. Brown goes darker to lighter. Fox goes dark to light to dark. 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show good color variation because we get good color variation. And a smear test, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with this Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, Jinhao X450 with a medium, and Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Franklin Christoph Model 66 with a broad sig nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it does offer some shading, like brown goes darker to lighter. The is a very dark word, especially next to over. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine. With no feather spread, halo sheen, decent shading. Brown going darker to lighter to darker. Jumps very dark. The even darker than jumps, 22 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation, and we are getting some. And the smear test, unfortunately, you could not recover it if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this blue, this lighter blue that's pushing its way up. We see a black come in to really give some more variation in this. And then we see a darker blue at the top. Now, I'm convinced before I got to the second one that there's actually two different blues here. And the second chromatography that was allowed to dry for 10 minutes before it was dunked in the water really does show it. You see there's one blue that really forms a line at the bottom, meaning we do expect a bit of resistance for this ink. Some of that pushes up, showing a very light blue, and then we see the little bit of black. It shows as a gray all the way across. It's like this gray band through the middle of the chromatography. And then a darker blue at the top. So what I think we have is a light blue, a dark blue, and a very dark gray making up this ink, giving it some of its character. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some shading. Like quick goes lighter to darker, brown goes darker to lighter. Lazy goes dark to light, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, not too bad a shading, gentle in its look. Brown goes dark to light. Fox goes like as a dark tone to a much darker tone at the X. Jumps goes light to dark, 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us good color variation. It does have it. It's much more gentle in the writing than we see here in the scrubby. And the smear test, you could probably recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel really confident using this in a note-taking situation. I don't see there being any kind of problem at all. Good ink here. Interesting as we move diagonally down, we do see that there's some sheen this ink has, although it never shows itself in any of the writing. Now, water with only 30 seconds is lifting a great deal of this ink, but leaving that blue that we saw in the second chromatography. Pen Flush is doing everything that water did and absolutely nothing more. 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper, but the good news that occurs here is that it only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade pretty well, like brown goes darker to lighter. Fox goes darker to lighter to darker. Lazy goes darker to lighter, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade fairly well, like over goes light to dark. The is a super dark word, where brown goes darker to lighter. 9 seconds to dry. The Scrubby for both show good color variation, and we get it in the writing, especially that medium. But the smear test says you probably couldn't recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity is 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Iroshizuku Shin or Deep Sea has a viscosity of 1.24, making this a very, very wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity is tested, or how the bell curve's made, or just like doing nerdy math stuff like me, there's a link to that video down in the description. Let's take a look at the next writing sample done on monokaki paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, decent shading, brown going from dark to light, quick going dark to light to dark, the being a very dark word, especially next to over. 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. No shade? Wrong. There is shade. Look at brown going darker to lighter. Look at the being very dark. Lazy going from darker to lighter. Dog going from darker to lighter. 8 seconds to dry. The Scrubby for both show good color variation because it's not too bad here. The tone of the paper's eating up some of it. The smear test says if you smeared while you were writing, you could recover it. For the inks tested, the average dry time is 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Iroshizuku Shin or Deep Sea has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making it a fast drying ink. The last writing sample is done on Moji paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It shades some. Look at Iroshizuku, starting lighter, getting darker, getting lighter again, then getting darker. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, decent shade, brown going dark to light, fox going dark to light to dark, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine. With no feather spread, halo sheen still brings some shading, like brown goes dark to light. Fox is a very dark word. Over goes light to dark, 9 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation. It's much better in the medium, I think. And a smear test, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Do that again. Instead of finding inks that look like Pilot Iroshizuku's Shin or Deep Sea, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice pink, Levenger's Pinkly. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to different playlists. So what do I think of Iroshizuku's Shin? It does have some shading and some tone variation. Pilot has a number of really good blues, and in this case, they are competing with themselves. This ink lost the battle against the other blues made by Pilot. This is a great blue. Pilot just has others that are better. So what nib and pen will give the best writing experience with this ink? I think anything will do it as long as the pen is not too wet, because then it really eats up the shading and isn't as nice as a bunch of their other inks are. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video we look at Lami's washable blue.